The whole reason that I wanted to make more money and I started this business in the first place was because I wanted to retire my mom. You know, I got a single mom, love her to death. It's a really difficult moment when your mom, who's your whole why, your whole reason that you got into this in the first place, sits you down and says, Mark, it's been 8 months and you've lost thousands of dollars on this business. I think it's time you need to give it up.
Well, guys, Alex Fedotov here, and today we have an amazing guest, my partner, my friend, my team member, Mark. I mean, we knew each other for many years. We first met with Mark as a client in the Assess program. We found our way to work together. We found our ways to get some amazing things together, and now we are working on some awesome projects. And I wanted to just get his feedback on different things like e-commerce. Besides that, Mark is very heavy into health. He's working out. He just has these like very hardcore values that I want to just like pick up his brain on and share with everyone so you guys can take advantage of. And thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
How did you get into e-commerce?
Yeah, I got into e-commerce when I had graduated high school and I was going to college. And I actually went to college full and well knowing that I wasn't going to finish it. I didn't tell my mom at the time because I love my mom, but I couldn't tell her that I was going to be the first kid to go through college and not finish it. So I just was like, all right, I'm going to go to college. I'll just get a safe business degree and we'll handle the whole dropping out thing a little bit later. But the reason I knew I wasn't going to finish was because I kind of saw through what college really was. And I saw that when I was there, which is, especially if you go to a liberal arts school, which I went to, you take a bunch of bullshit classes that have nothing to do with your major. You waste a whole lot of time. You waste a lot of money. And I knew that before I even started. Right when I started, I knew that, yeah, I'm going to be going to college. I'm going to be getting by. I'm going to be passing my classes. But every other second that is not spent going towards school is going to be going towards building my own business. And I didn't really know what it was going to be at the time. I was just like, school is not going to be it for me. It's not going to be how I become really wealthy, how I make it for my family, and I have to figure out another way. And of course, you go on to Google and you're like, how to make money online, and you find all these different business models. And I actually started looking into Amazon first. And as soon as you make that first search into YouTube, you start getting retargeted with ads. You start having like Tai Lopez videos pop up on your feed. That's when I really started going down the rabbit hole of understanding e-commerce, understanding Amazon. And I ended up, the first real business that I started was a dropshipping store way back in 2018 for me. And that's its own story that we can go into. But that's ultimately how I got started, is I just knew that I always wanted more. I never was the person to go the traditional path. And I knew that even going into college. And I was like, I'm just going to have to spend some time figuring this out, with college being the safety net. And as soon as I have it figured out, as soon as I'm making some consistent income, I'm out of here.
You went to San Diego University, right? Which is like, I think it's like well-respected, and it's like a well-respected institution. And still you knew that it's not going to lead you to the outcomes that you wanted. So what was the kind of the inception for you, right? Like, in kind of the motivation behind just getting into your own business and inside of just going the typical path that everyone goes through?
Well, I think if you want to live an average life, you do a lot of average things. And if you look at what the average human does, the average American, it's usually something like they, make their way through high school. They try to get as good at grades as possible. They try to get into the best college as possible. And then they try to get the best job as possible. And I'm looking at all these steps. And if you're in high school, you'll understand this when you start like touring colleges. You start doing all the math in your head about, like, for me, for example, I wanted to be a doctor initially. I wanted to be an anesthesiologist because I was like, they have the best work-life balance. They have to
Really?
work, yeah, because they make a lot of money, but the work that they have to do is significantly less than someone like a surgeon. And they have a very specific job. They're very important. I don't want to say they're not important, and they're very intelligent, but I was like, this is the best net ROI positive type of medical route I could go. So I wanted to be a doctor. And as I was touring these colleges, you start doing the math of how much it's really going to cost you and how much time it's really going to cost you. you're like, all right, 4 years of undergrad, and then you have 4 more years of medical school, and then you have 1 to 2 years of residency, and then you have 1 to 2 years in fellowship. So that all in is like 10 to 12 years.
Wow.
And that's every single year you're paying. Like you have bills to pay, you have college to pay for, university. And I remember doing the math and I was like, I come from a low income family. How am I going to afford all of this? And is this something that I really want to wait 10 to 12 years for? And at that point, then I can finally start paying off all my debt. And it just didn't make any sense for me. For other people, it's, that's totally your prerogative. But for me, I was like, this is not something that I see would really add a lot of value to my life. And so I realized that I was like, okay, I can't do the pre-med route. I'm going to start a business. But I still need to go to school in the meantime just so that my mom doesn't, disown me. And I still have a good relationship with her. But ultimately, it just comes down to what type of person are you? Are you the type of person who wants to live an average life? Are you the type of person that wants to make an average amount of money? Are you the type of person that wants to have an average physique and an average, average health? And the answer was always no. It's always been no for me. And I think a lot of people watching can probably resonate with that. You always feel different. You're not here just to live a normal life. You're here to do extraordinary things. And if you want extraordinary output, you have to have extraordinary input. You're not going to live an extraordinary life if you're doing all the same shit that everybody else is doing. So it takes a lot of introspection to look inside yourself and be like, the path that I'm on right now is not going to get me to that extraordinary life that I'm talking about. Everybody says they want to be rich, but they never do the actual things that are required to get you there.
Such a good point, because it's what you mentioned makes so much sense. That if people, you were projecting to go into medicine or some careers where you can at least make a few $100,000 a year after 8, 10 years of education, but most educations, most degrees won't even get you that. Like they get you like $40,000-$50,000 job maybe. Why do you think people don't reflect on that? Like why do you think people kind of don't connect the dots like the way you did?
Well, they're either just not aware because this isn't something that is talked about in the media, in the school system, by your parents, by your friends. If you're surrounded by the same environment that's just validating all of your opinions, then you're never gonna take a step outside yourself and be like, is what I'm doing right now actually going to get me where I want to go? So it's either that they don't have the awareness, or they just are soft and they don't want to face the brutal reality that they're not the person that they think they are. And most people can't look inside themselves because it's really uncomfortable. It's really uncomfortable to look at the traits that you have that are not serving you. Like what in your personality, the deepest, darkest things inside of you that are disserving you. That's a really uncomfortable conversation to have with yourself. And most people, like very, very transparently, are just not tough enough to have that conversation with themselves. They can't look themselves in the mirror and have that conversation.
At what age did you have that conversation with yourself?
Well, I like to think that I always had that, but that would probably be a lie. So I would say that for me, it really happened when I was in high school. Actually, I was really into basketball. I've always been into athletics, but basketball was kind of my thing. And I had a coach of mine that I still talk to this day. And he was really the first one to get the most out of me, to call me out, say, Mark, you have the ability to be really good, but right now you're being a bitch and you need to stop.
He was very direct with you?
He was very direct. And that's why we're still very, very close today. Like I went home to see him over Christmas break recently. And he's always been that kind of mentor for me, to call me out, to be brutally honest, but also to lift me up. It's not just like, oh, Mark, you fucking suck, you piece of shit. There's a lot of uplifting things that he would tell me as well, because he saw how devoted I was and talented and willing to do anything to reach my goals. And he just wanted to bring that fire inside of me out even more. And that's what you should find in a good coach or a good mentor.
So when you got into e-commerce, how the journey was for you? Like how fast did you start getting results? How long that process took for you?
When I started my first business, I thought it was going to be a lot easier than it was. I don't know why I had that impression in my mind. I think it was just because I'm a driven person. I was like, if I work hard enough, I'm a relatively smart guy. I can figure this out pretty fast. And looking back, I went through a 9-month period where I was still in college, with a full course load and still trying to do all the college things that you do. And I was working on my business and any other free time that I had. And there was about a 9-month period where I was just giving everything that I possibly had. Like I was working nonstop. I was either doing homework for school or I was working on the business, like sleeping 4 hours a night, Red Bull, like whole 9 yards, right? And during this period, it was one of the most difficult periods of my life looking back because I saw basically zero results. Like imagine pouring your life into something for 9 months, day in and day out. For me, I was coming back from my class and then going onto my laptop, pulling up my Shopify store and seeing how much money I lost every day. Imagine going through that every day for 9 months straight. And, I made some sales here and there, never any profit really though. And it wasn't until I finally did invest in a mentor and I was able to learn from a lot of the mistakes that I made and was able to, get my first profitable day, my first like 1K day, first 5K day, first 10K day. But that period where you're going through so much shit, there's a lot of character development in that. And I don't think a lot of people talk about it. They focus on the successes and like where they're at now, but I would not be who I am if I didn't go through that 9-month period. And it definitely wouldn't have felt as good that first 1K day if I did that like on day one. There would be no value in that. But when you go through the struggles before you have the success, it actually makes it worth it. Or else like, if I wanted to make $1 million, some people are just going to play the lottery. I wouldn't want to win the lottery if I'm just going to get the $1 million immediately. There's not as much value in that versus if you like build a business that makes you $1 million because you go through all the shit. You go through the entire shitstorm and then boom, there's the big payoff. That's a lot more rewarding, in my opinion. I never got super negative during that time. It was frustrating, yes, but anytime that I was like walking to the gym, this is also when I started getting into the gym and just becoming addicted to lifting. Anytime I was walking to the gym, walking back, walking to the cafeteria, walking back, I was listening to podcasts about how to train my mind to become tough. Because what I realized is at any point in time, there's going to be shit going wrong, like in your life. And if it's not happening now, it's going to come. And any time that the shit storm comes towards you, you can either go through that shit storm with a positive mindset or a negative one. Either way, the shit's coming at you. And so it's your choice. So there's a time where I was like, everything is going wrong for me right now. And a lot of people would just like hang up their hat, quit, whatever. That was never in my mind. But I was like, I can either go through this and be all pissed off and be mad at the world, or I can just have the best possible mindset, even though the shit's going to come either way. You have the choice to be able to determine what your mindset is when you're going through the really difficult things in life. And for me, I'd rather choose to have the empowering mindset and be the type of person that's like, well, the shit's coming. And if you handle adversity with like that strength and that power, man, it's so much more rewarding. And then nothing can faze you. That's the best part. No matter what's happening around you, nothing phases you. You become a textbook stoic, where no matter what is going wrong, you're good.
First of all, if people got into the business, doesn't matter what kind of business, could be e-commerce, could be something else, with a mindset of, first of all, that it won't be easy. And then if they put more time into the business, if they had the expectations that it won't be instant success, then more people would be successful in business, just by definition, just statistically speaking. And so do you believe that? Do you agree with that?
I do. And here's the way I thought about it. I basically gave myself an ultimatum where I was either going to stick with this business long enough and work hard enough to the point where I was successful, or I was going to die before that happened. Because if you like, it seems really kind of fucked up. But if you create this this like paradigm of choice for yourself, you're like, okay, what's either going to happen is I literally work so hard and so long that I finally make it, or you just die before that happens. That was my mindset at the time. Like, One of the most difficult moments I remember when I was running my first business is a conversation I had with my mom. And the whole reason that I wanted to make more money and I started this business in the first place was because I wanted to retire my mom. You know, I got a single mom, love her to death, and I wanted to retire her. And it's a really difficult moment when your mom, who's your whole why, your whole reason that you got into this in the first place, sits you down and says, Mark, it's been 8 months and you've lost thousands of dollars on this business. I think it's time you need to give it up. That was probably the most difficult moment in the entire process of starting the business, because the whole reason that you did it is telling you that you need to stop.
And what did you do? Did you stop?
Of course not. Of course not. Although that was a tough, that was a really, really tough moment. Ironically, because time is a funny thing, about a month and a half after that, I made around $20,000 in profit in my e-commerce business. So it was like right after that conversation happened, you know, the rock bottom moment, whatever you want to call it. I was like, fuck, I need to figure this out now. Like, too much time has gone by. And funny enough, like, it happened. You know, I was able to find that winning product. I was able to build a successful store profitably and make some money out of it. Everybody goes through moments like those where you're struggling and then you reach that rock bottom and you have a choice. You can be the type of person that hangs it up, or you can be the type of person that is so sick in the head, so fucked up, that he's like, nothing in this world is ever going to stop me from getting to where I want to go.
And it's fascinating, right? Because you've had a conversation with your mom and you love your mom, and you still did things that are opposite to what she recommended. You kept persisting. And I think that is kind of the like a willpower and willingness to just like follow your gut and follow your like that desire inside of you, that a lot of people just submit to that. A lot of people, like, you know, if their friends or their family tells them like, hey, you should probably stop it, right? They would be like, yeah, kind of, they didn't want to get into further conflicts, right? Or they just don't want to damage that relationship with their friends or family, with their partner, with whoever that is in their closest circle, that they just decide to do that instead of like pursuing what's inside of them, pursuing their passion. And that's, I believe, how many, you know, probably successful ideas, successful projects are killed, because that's when you decide, as you said, to just like, you know, not to follow your heart.
Yeah. And for me, I found a lot of motivation in that. I'm really motivated by negativity. I'm very driven by people that doubt me, people that say that you can't do something, people that say you'll never do something. I get excited when somebody tells me that, because I'm like, oh, finally, I got this new source of motivation that I can use. And you know, you can judge that if you want, but at the end of the day, it works. And it doesn't matter the method that you use to achieve your goals. What matters is if you achieve the goal. That's what it's about. And so it's okay to be motivated by proving things wrong. I think a lot of people can serve to be more motivated by negativity. One of the people that I was listening to the podcast when I was going through this phase was Tom Bilyeu, one of my favorite entrepreneurs. And he would always say that you should use that dark side of yourself to push through the most difficult moments that you have. And the only asterisk next to that is that it doesn't exceed more than 20% of your time. Because if you spend more than 20% of your time just basking in the negativity, it's going to start to actually like affect your personality, your relationships with your friends, with your family, and you're just going to become an asshole, or you're going to become somebody that's just not fun to be around. So keep it within the 20%. The 80% can be all sunshine, rainbows, the world is beautiful. But if you want to really, really push yourself, it's not going to come from gratitude. It's not going to come from positive affirmations. It's going to come from those moments where you think, oh, that motherfucker, I'm going to prove that fucker wrong. And then you end up like not sleeping at all through the night because you're so pissed off and just working on proving that person wrong. those are, those are moments that make the journey really sweet. And it's okay to tap into that energy.
Do you think people are born with that, or that can be like developed over time? Like this is in part, this is competitive nature, right? Like you kind of want to prove other people wrong, and at the same time you have the belief. Like, I mean, you must have some belief in yourself that you can actually achieve that, right? Do you think those could be like gained over time? Like, let's say if someone didn't have like a lot of self-esteem, like, do you think that can be developed over time, or that's something that some people are born with and some people are not?
The self-esteem can definitely be developed. I mean, most things that deal with your belief patterns can be developed, but you have to very consciously develop them, because it's not going to happen by accident. It's like saying you're going to get rich by accident. Usually that doesn't happen. You got to put in work. And the same is true with your mind. You have to put in a lot of work to become the type of person that has high self-esteem, that has, a lot of self-respect. First person that comes to mind is somebody like David Goggins. He had a very weak mind at one point, but he used, athletics and strength and, the Navy SEAL training to develop his mind in a way that nothing else would. So he willingly put himself in these situations where he was toughening his mind. And I think most things can be developed. Some people are I will say that some people are born naturally uncompetitive. And I can't specifically speak to those people. That's not me. I've always been a pretty competitive person, but ultimately it goes back to what I said earlier. It doesn't matter how you put in the work. It doesn't matter how you take action. As long as you take action and get the goal, it doesn't matter how it happened. You got the goal. You got what you were after.
How is it for you, like, when it comes to health, right? Like, you're one of the most like fit people that I know, and you always stay in shape. How that mindset, did you also like develop it over time? Did you get better at it over time?
Well, I think there's two things about this question. Number one is there's the actual practical effort that you have to put into your body to get the outcome that you want. And most people, especially in America, they're totally fucked about this. They have no idea how like the thermodynamics of your body actually functions.
What is thermodynamics?
So if you want to lose weight, it's just a question of energy expenditure, meaning how many calories, which is a measure of energy, are burned versus how many are consumed. One is your metabolism, one is the foods that you're eating. And the weight loss equation is very, very simple. If you burn more calories than you consume, you're going to lose weight. So that's weight loss specifically. And then you have like fat loss, which you also have to be in that calorie deficit of burning more calories than you consume, but you have to make sure that you're strength training and that you're consuming enough protein. So that's like the practical stuff that most of America is totally fucked. They just don't understand. They think the reason that they're fat is because like they're not taking the right multivitamin. And then you have the mindset, which is probably where most people fall short. And that is knowing that you have to be in a calorie deficit. That's one part, but it's also still hard to do. Like losing weight and building muscle, holy shit, what do you have to do? You have to go to the gym and work out, and then you have to eat less food. What a fucking concept. And it's not super easy to do all the time. So even if you know what to do, you have to eat less, you have to move more, then you have to have the mental toughness to actually execute on that, which is where a lot of people fail too. So the reason that they fail there usually just comes down to they don't have a why that's actually strong enough for them to want to make the change.
What is your why for just being ripped all the time?
I think my why is tied to my identity. If you want to make lasting change, like there's a book called Atomic Habits by James Clear. He talks about this. If you want to set a habit that actually sticks, you don't just say like, I'm going to read a book every day for 15 minutes until I like read 100 books or whatever. You would say, I'm the type of person that really enjoys reading. So you label it at the identity level, because when you do that, then you're just that type of person, and every action that you take will align with your identity. Every single action that you take aligns with your identity. So if there's something in terms of your actions that's wrong, that's really an identity problem that you have to fix. So for me, I think I'm just always the type of person that's really fit and has a good physique, and that.
And you thinking of yourself as someone in good physique and in good shape.
Yeah.
You seeing yourself as that kind of person.
Yeah, identity statements are, I'm the type of person that. So when you say that to yourself, like, what is the first thing that comes up? For me, I'm the type of person that is always in good shape. That's always training hard. That's always pushing himself physically. Those are the first things that just come to my mind.
Do you repeat that to yourself like every day? How do you make that belief like a part of your identity?
Yeah, repetition is a great way to do it. That's one way to speak to the subconscious mind. And visualization is the other way to speak to the subconscious mind. So this shit is so baked into me that I don't repeat to myself in the mirror, like, I'm the type of person that blah, blah, blah. It's so baked into my identity already that I couldn't change it if I wanted to. That's why we'll go out to dinner sometimes. It'll be like 8, 9 p.m. and I'll be like, shit, I got to hit legs after this. And then I'll have to leave dinner and go to the gym. It's because it's already so baked in. Like, I don't give myself a chance to do anything else. There's no other option.
You had the previous identity, right? Let's say if you're not in good shape and now you want to become a person that's like in good shape, or maybe you didn't have a business or didn't have successful business. Now you want to become a person that has successful business. How does that process happening? Like, and how much time did it take you to fully embrace this new identity?
It took a lot of time, man. It takes a lot of time and a lot of, like, when I think about when I built this identity, it was really after I'd graduated high school and I was working on my business. I was in college and I was going to the gym. Like, that's all I did. I ate as much food as possible because I was a skinny little bitch, and I was lifting 1 to 2 times per day. I was playing basketball at least like once a day, and then I was in school and working on my business, and that was it.
Did you associate any pain with like going back to the previous identity? Did you have like you said, being like a skinny bitch, right? Like, which is kind of like a painful statement, right? And so, did you associate like pain with just going back and reversing? Like, did you punish yourself somehow for that? Like,
I still experience pain from it because there's a lot of times where, I mean, this is just the body dysmorphia, but there's still that voice deep down that's whispering that I'm a skinny little bitch. And I have to fight that voice all the time. And I think for a lot of high performers, that's just how it is. Like, you're a very, very successful entrepreneur. There's still that voice in the back of your head that's like, you haven't done shit yet.
Well, I tell myself this every day.
Exactly. And it's the same thing for me in business and in health. It's like, you really haven't done anything. It is that it never really goes away, although your identity has changed. And so that little voice is what continues to drive you to be better every day, to achieve more. It's the same thing for me. Same thing for all high performers. We all have the voice deep down. I think Alex Hormozi said it as well, that we're actually really insecure about what we look like, what we've done. There's always that little voice that says you haven't actually done shit yet.
So it's pretty much like everyone has insecurities, right? By definition. And it's just the way that you handle those insecurities, whether you face them and whether you turn them into a pain that is painful enough for you to kind of like go in the opposite direction and go towards like a new identity.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So you mentioned that when you got into e-commerce and you had this initial like period of struggle, and then you started to get some traction, you mentioned that you've invested in mentorships and kind of like that's what was like one of the pivotal moments for you?
Yeah, because like most people, I thought I was really smart. I thought I was better than the average. And then you actually get in the trenches and start, running your own business, and you realize you don't actually know anything. And so at the time, I didn't have a lot of money to invest in a mentor. I mean, you mentioned I was a student in your program like almost 5 years ago now. And I had enough money to pay for the investment of the program divided by 3. I had 1/3 of that I could pay. And I was like, if I don't make money in the next 30 days, I won't be able to afford the next payment. So...
Did you pay all the payments, by the way?
I did.
Yeah.
I did. Barely. No. There was a point where I was struggling to pay. I think it was the second payment. But yeah, the third one was good. And it's always uncomfortable to invest in yourself. That first big investment, that first big mentorship where you spend multiple $1,000s. It's a scary step. But that's the exact sign that it's the right step. If you do your research and you find a mentor that cares about you, that has, a good track record, then the fear of investing in yourself is never going to go away. I still have that fear today, except the number is just significantly greater. I'm not afraid of investing $1,000, $5,000, $10,000. I'm afraid of, like 10x that number. Like, is this really going to pay off for me? But the fear never goes away. The difference between somebody who is successful and somebody's not is they still act in spite of the fear. They still take the action. They still invest in the mentorship, even though they have no idea what's going to come next, because you're afraid of what you don't know. So they're really just afraid of the unknown. If you invested in a program and they're like, there's 100% chance, like just theoretically, 100% chance that you make 10K a month in the next 3 months, everybody would take that. But then there would be no fear. So obviously there's no guarantees in business. So what they're really afraid of, and what I'm really afraid of if I'm investing, is the unknown. I don't know if this is actually going to pay off. But again, the difference between that person and the person that becomes successful is you still take action in spite of the fear. The fear never goes away. But the people who have courage are the ones who take action and still act in spite of the fear.
Any of those decisions, they come with a degree of fear, right? Like, what if this doesn't work out? What if that doesn't work out? What if this goes wrong? But if you think about like a bigger picture, I like to reflect on this as kind of like a bigger, like expanding the time horizon. Okay, let's say projecting 10, 20, 30, 50 years from now, right? You're like older, and like, fuck, I should have done this. I should have invest. I should have started that business. I should have moved. I should have answered that fucking phone call. And that, Jeff Bezos has this regret minimization framework, right? Like when he quit his very promising career, he was making a lot of money on Wall Street, and he decided to start Amazon. He had this regret minimization framework. Like when he's 80 years old and he's on his deathbed and he's like, fuck, I should have started that little book company, right? And if he wouldn't do that, we wouldn't be enjoying all of the, Amazon great products that they sell these days. Probably it's one of those things that also stops a lot of people. They kind of decide to ignore fear, right? And what you're saying is that you're kind of acknowledging it. Yeah, it's there. Yes, there is a possibility that maybe it won't work out, but I'll still fucking do it.
Yeah, it's like if you're swimming in the ocean and there's a shark right next to you, probably the worst thing you can do is just try to ignore your fear. You're just probably going to end up losing a leg or both, or just die. But there's a lot of power in accepting these negative emotions.
So you punch shark in the eye.
So you're like, okay, I'm scared. Now I'm going to fuck this shark up.
I've heard that sharks, I don't know how accurate that is. Someone told me that when shark attacks you, you have to basically attack it back.
Yeah, you got to punch him in the eye too, or the nose, or both.
That would be funny. So let's talk about you moving to Miami, right? Because we've at that stage we already worked together, right, for I think quite some time. For me personally, relocation physically. So I'm from Ukraine. I relocated to Poland. I had enough savings for 3 months of life. I had no language, literally, and that decision changed my life. Even when we were moving from Europe to the United States, it was a scary decision that, looking back, it was one of the most profound, one of the most important decisions that I've ever made, and changed my life in so many, positive ways. But it was a scary decision. There's a higher cost of living. There's many things that I don't know. I don't know the culture. I don't know the people. I don't know anyone there. So what was that decision like for you? And what was your self-talk at that point of time?
Well, there was still a lot of fear for me to move to a city that I've never been before. I have no family anywhere near me. A few friends, only because of the company that we run together. There was a lot of fear for me to move to Miami. And especially for the people that know anything about me, I'm not the Miami City type of person. I like to stay to myself for the most part, work, go to the gym, and that's how I spend 99% of my time. But really what it came down to for me was there is so much power in surrounding yourself with people that are on the same mission as you. And if you ever have the opportunity to live with those people, like in the same apartment, in the same house, absolutely do it. Because there's a lot of really, really special, magical things that happen when you are in very close proximity to people that share the same mindset as you, that share the same goals as you, and that are all just trying to get better. Because especially if you're a guy, these other people will push you really hard. They'll tell you all the things that you don't want to hear. And what will end up happening is that when one person levels up, the next person will level up, and then the next person will level up. And then you all just end up getting really fucking good at what you do really fucking fast. You start making more money together. You start overcoming all your limiting beliefs. And you just turn into the person that's constantly growing and being pushed by other men. And I think there's so much power in that. If you want a fucking shortcut to life, go and move in with people that are pushing you like crazy. And you're just going to level up super, super fast.
There's a lot of, I know in Los Angeles, there are like literally like houses of different people that are, let's say that like YouTubers, right? Like bunch of YouTubers moving together. And then you see all of these people like just blowing up, because like they learn from each other. The learning curve is just so steep. They learning so fast, and they're all like aligned, and they're sharing what's working with each other, that it's just so hard not to grow. Like it just almost like impossible not to grow. Whereas, if people live in a city or like a village, and they're only surrounded by the people they know, probably they're surrounded by the family, and they only hear what they want to know. No one will call them out, right? It's very comfortable. It's very like neat environment. There is no growth in that. Like there is literally like no growth. And the same way is, even when it comes to just attending events and conferences and masterminds and joining and meeting other people, where like you have people that are, maybe they're like 100 times more successful than you are, right? And just, it's uncomfortable to meet those people in person, right? You feel yourself like nobody, and kind of, I don't know. It's kind of like at first, but then like as you're spending more and more time in that environment, you over time getting comfortable, and your level of comfort at which you're comfortable to operate just increases, and you might not even see that. And the level of kind of the decisions that you make also increases with that, and you're making better decisions because you're learning from those people firsthand. And like you said, I think it's one of the biggest catalysts that I envisioned. One of the biggest things that just kind of changes everything, for people that living in small cities. Maybe it's moving to a bigger city. If you're living in one country, try relocating that country. Try to see if you can adapt in another environment, meeting new friends, just changing your social circle, because that changes your identity on so many different levels.
Yeah, I think a lot of successful people, they willingly put themselves in situations where they have no other options. They willingly put their back against the wall where they have to either adapt and succeed or nothing. That's the only option that they have. And the same is true when you moved from Europe to America. There was no other option. Like you moved to America, you're in America now. You're probably not going to go back and live in Europe. And the same is true when I dropped out of college. I was like, I either figure out how to consistently make money with this business, or I can't pay my rent and I'm homeless. No options. There's no options. When you put your back against the wall, if you're the right person, you will accomplish extraordinary things.
So when you moved to Miami, how was Miami is kind of like shiny place, right? A lot of things are happening here. And how do you see the dating life in Miami? Like the overall like circle, like the people you meet here, like how that, did that affect you in any way?
I don't think I can comment too much on the dating question for probably the same reason that most people are thinking in their head. But I can comment on the type of people that are here. I mean, Miami is an amazing city. There's a lot of really cool people. I think of Miami as a city of extremes, right? You have the really, really cool people, really successful, down to earth, and you're just like, this is a really cool person. And then you have the very, very fake, the very superficial, the people that have $2 in the bank account but have Gucci everything. The cool thing about that is that the type of people that come into your life is the type of people that you attract. And so if you find all these fake people suddenly being around you and all these like broke people suddenly being all around you, it's probably within your best interest to do some self-reflection, because I do believe that the type of people you have in your life are attracted. They're an expression of your own identity. That's why I have a lot of really cool people around me.
But you are very selective who you spend your time with.
Yes.
I've noticed that about you, that you're keeping your circle very limited, right? And that's a way to do it, like especially when you're at one of these places. I've noticed that with myself when we moved to Miami. There's like so many things happening, like people inviting you for, like dinners and stuff like that. And then you seeing yourself like kind of like dragged more and more into it. And then at some point, I personally just cut all of those like interactions. You might find a lot of distractions as well. And you have to really identify, what are your values and what are the, people that are aligned with your values that you really want to be spending time with, and kind of like people on the same trajectory as you, like looking to grow in certain areas of life. So then you just don't go kind of, in totally like wrong direction.
Yeah, and if you want to know one of the best traits to look for in other people, it's integrity. But the best way that I've heard this described, and we talk about this on our team all the time, I believe this is from Cole Gordon, is having a high say-do ratio, which means anything that you say, you actually withhold within yourself and do. So if you say, I'm going to go to the gym 7 times this week, no matter what, you go to the gym 7 times. If you say, I'm going to like call my mom 3 times a week, you do it no matter how fucking hard it is. Like, there's no other option. Back to the no options thing. If you see that in other people, for me, that's a very green flag of the type of person that I want to surround myself with.
So first, you're being honest with yourself. Are you telling yourself you'll do something and you actually do it? And then that reflects on what you're saying to other people that you'll do, and you actually do it.
Exactly.
Nice. And so if you could go back and give yourself like when you're like 18 years old and you'd give yourself a piece of advice, what would that be?
The piece of advice I would give myself if I was 18 again would be invest in a good mentor faster, even if it costs you a lot of money. Most people think that mentors or investing in a coaching program or whatever, they only view it in terms of the financial cost. How much is my bank account going to go down when I send this company money? But they never think about the time cost. It took me about a year into my e-com journey before I found you. If I found you on day one and I just grew some balls and decided to invest in your program on day one, my e-com journey would have looked completely different. But I didn't. So looking back, I would say that's probably the best thing you can do. Now, there's a lot of, programs out there that are not good. Obviously, do your own research, find somebody that is authentic, that actually cares. But if you do that, do it a lot sooner than you think you should. Don't make the mistake that I did, which was, I'll just try to figure it out for myself for a little bit first, and if it doesn't work, then I'll just let your ego go and take the leap. That's the advice I'd give.
So what advice would you give to like a smart, driven, maybe college student that's about to enter the real world?
Break rules.
What do you mean by that?
If you're a young person who's entering the real world, society, your parents, friends are going to tell you the way that you should live your life. They're going to give you this set of rules that are best practices that you should live your life by. Fuck them. Those rules don't mean anything. They're invented by some person who you do not want to model. One of the best decisions you can make is to find somebody in life that has the life you want to live and see what they did. And usually, if you want to live an extraordinary life, that person, that role model, broke a lot of rules. And the same is true even in business. Like, if somebody says, like, you have to have this one thing on your product page, like for an e-com store, like you have to have it you have to have it formatted this way. Says who? Probably some old marketer that's now dead that invented that rule that made like $5 online and decided to just say, this is how it has to be done. Break the rules, because that's when really special things happen, is when you go against the grain. Because again, it goes back to, if you want to be average, do average things. If you want to be extraordinary, you have to do extraordinary things.
A lot of people, they grow up without like this like circle that would support them, right? Where to find that support? Like, would you find it through the books? Like, to find the validation for the path that you've chosen to do, that it's the right path, or even if it's like against the common path that was given to you. Like, where would you start looking for those answers?
Books are good, but most people make the mistake of reading books and not implementing them. They read them just for fun and then they do nothing with them. You'd be much better off finding a very, very select few books that are very specific to you and your personality, and rereading them like 5 to 10 times. Aside from that, you should be joining other communities, because the best way to like learn a lot fast is just getting exposure. And what'll happen is, if you start to join communities online, is you'll make a lot of friends, and you'll join like a mastermind, you'll join like a Discord, and then you'll find like 2 or 3 guys or girls that are also really cool and are on the same mission as you. And then you'll go and create this other group. And then the same thing will happen, then you'll create another group. And if you can't surround yourself with somebody physically that's on the same mission as you, that's great. We live in the internet era. You can do it online. And you should do it online.
I mean, thinking back, like for me, like what made the big difference was also like joining in masterminds, buying programs, connecting with other people, because that's how you learn the fastest. You know, with, as you said, with the technology, with internet, it's very accessible to everyone right now. Like, people probably spending more on coffee than, you know, some communities cost, that they can join for like a few $100s, a few $1,000s, right? That, you know, that can change their lives in so many ways and can accelerate their success. How is like, so you've been in e-commerce like since 2000, like what, 5 years, let's say 5 years, more or less?
Yeah, 5 or 6.
Where do you see the industry going, like, and how do you see e-commerce has evolved over time?
I see more and more people adding direct response to their business. I think that's the most clear thing, is taking something that is really, really good at making you money, that's e-com, and applying something that most people don't know how to apply, which is direct response. So
so for people watching, maybe they don't know like what direct response is, if you can explain in a few words.
Direct response is just a way to market your business, that you're trying to get a response, aka somebody to give you their credit card, to pay you money on the very first time that they see you. That's why it's called direct response. And most notably, like if you look at the history of direct response in the internet era, and specifically how it applies to e-com, is going to be applying VSLs to e-com, applying like real traditional TSLs to e-com, writing real good copy. I have a buddy who's currently managing a $100 million e-com company, and all they do is have simple image ads and long direct response form copy. But if you take the average e-com person and you say, write this long form like ad copy, that's direct response, they're gonna do fucking horrible. Because all they know is like, all most e-com people know is find a winning product, have good ads. They don't know a whole lot about funnel architecture, about strategically designing upsells, about the psychology of upsells. They definitely don't know a whole lot about retention and return customer rate and getting back more orders from your existing customers. Most e-com people fall short there. And I think that's a huge, huge opportunity. So huge that I don't even want to say it, because I don't want to create too much competition. No, I'm kidding. But I do think that adding direct response to e-com is probably the easiest way for, well, I don't say easiest, it's the best way for you to make money with e-com right now. It's not going to be like the traditional drop shipping route that most people take, spam testing products or spam testing creatives. It's going to be finding something that works for a traditional e-com store and just taking direct response and throwing it at it. VSLs, advertorials, complex funnels. I think that's where the industry is heading right now.
And this is applicable to both like beginner entrepreneurs that are just starting their journey, and this is applicable to multi-million-dollar like e-commerce businesses, because when people talking like, oh, I'm building e-commerce brands, right? And people have perception of the brand, the colors need to be perfect, the logo needs to be on point, like everything needs to be like visually appealing, but they miss that part where you actually have to convince the person to give you fucking money. And that's where like a lot of opportunity is. Like even right now, like in ESS, we have, as you know, like we have some of the like 9-figure companies, like, joining ESS, and, they're like, oh, direct response, like, oh, it's like, and now they're like utilizing, we teach them how to do more direct response, and, their results are through the roof because they haven't been like, implementing that. This is applicable on every level of success. But if you want to, kind of like observing the space, I mean, the ad cost will probably go up, right? Like, I mean, when you were advertising, like, 3 years ago, when I was advertising, like 5 years ago, like, I mean, I wish CPMs were like today, like they were before, or cost per click, or, click-through rates were the same, because like it's more competitive environment. So the only way that you can do better with your business, and you can have that margin and profit to reinvest back into your business, if you squeeze more from every single visitor. If you squeeze your average order value, right, how much each person on average spends on your website, if you really optimize your conversion rate on the website, this is the way to do it right now. Because like if you want to compete on the highest level, and if you want to spend hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars per month on ads, you have to compete on this very high level, and you have to be competitive, and your ads need to provoke the response from people to actually give you money. So when it comes, and you're like one of the sharpest like direct response marketers, like I know, I mean, you understand all of the dynamics of the business. Like, I mean, your funnels have, I mean, you spend like millions and millions of dollars on ads, and you've seen many businesses like ad accounts. Like, what are the biggest, you feel like actionable points for people watching to take away and like start implementing today when it comes to direct response in their business?
Many of the advanced guys probably already know these, but if I'm talking to a bigger crowd, I'll say these. The first that comes in mind is using advertorials, especially on native traffic. I think that's huge. Second is going to be using VSLs, so video sales letters that take, they're going to take a lot more effort for you to get right. But when you get it right, that's like almost a true definition of like a hands-off business. You get a VSL that converts, you're good, you're chilling. Most people think that artificial intelligence and ChatGPT and all these LLMs are at the level where they're not quite good enough at writing direct response copy. That's a lie. Most people that are saying that are just not that good at prompting ChatGPT or Claude or whatever it may be. Stefan Georgi is obviously the head of this industry right now, applying AI to copywriting and to VSLs. So that's a great place to start. But we have this massive tool that's unfolding in front of us. If you're not using it, you're fucking stupid. So applying AI to VSLs and to advertorials, very, very important. And then the third thing I would say is exactly what this other e-com brand is doing, which is, having simple image ads, but long form direct response copy. And learning copy, direct response is it's a bitch to learn. So like using AI to your advantage is going to be huge. So again, I would recommend Stefan has some great training in regards to that. But it's the kind of thing where it's like you're going to have to adapt to this anyways. You may as well start now.
And it's also seeing how the industry goes and how the whole, entrepreneurship, right, is already disrupted, right? And will be more and more disrupted by AI. So, and the people who will be using AI in their businesses will get, time efficiency, cost efficiency, right? They'll be able to get more output from smaller teams. So smaller teams will be able to beat, these big, companies with hundreds of employees, because they're just able to leverage AI more efficiently. And so it's up to you which kind of side of this you want to be on. You want to be on the side that's just like ignoring it and it doesn't work, it's not good enough, or kind of putting that on the sidelines, or you want to be the person comes down to identity, right? Like that get their hands dirty, right? Figures out how to utilize it to get their business and grow their business, and takes the full advantage of it to grow it.
You know, the cool part about that is these businesses and businesses in general, they're going to have to start competing on systems. Who has the best SOPs and trainings for, or even prompts for AI? That's what these businesses are going to start to compete on. It's not going to be on the people. It's not even going to be on the ads. It's going to be on the systems that are influenced by AI that affect everything else.
I mean, from day one, you have to be leveraging AI in some capacity. Start with ChatGPT, but get on it, get your hands dirty, and crack it, because this is just going to be more and more used, and businesses who take advantage of it will be, just getting advantage over everyone else.
Agreed.
So, how would you talk to someone, or what would you say to someone who's too scared to start a business?
The fear will never go away. The fear is always going to be there. Even the highest level entrepreneurs have levels of fear about the decisions that they make. The difference is between the successful ones and the unsuccessful ones is the successful ones still act in spite of the fear. So I think it goes back to what we said earlier. I also want to say that if you have fear about starting a business, about making some big investment, about taking that next leap, there is a version of yourself out there. If it was Mark, it'd be like the Mark 2.0. And he fucking started that business. And he's going to kick your ass if you don't start this business. I think a lot of high performers think this way as well. There's always this other version of them out there. And they're the highest level version of yourself. And everything that you don't do, this person is going to do. Everything that I don't do, I feel like, cheating on my diet for some reason, or skipping a gym session, or not finishing a work project by a specific time, you can just think about Mark 2.0 is out there and he's about to kick my ass. I can't let that happen.
So again, you're artificially creating pain.
Yeah. Even like creating fear. I'm scared. I may meet Mark 2.0 one day, and I want us to be identical.
What if you evolve to 2.0? Do you create 3.0?
Yes.
How many variations you have now?
Infinite.
So the process of growth it never stops, right? Like the same as with your body, with a business, you get to a certain level. Now you have to get to the next level. And I'm reading all of these books, and conversations I have with my friends that are, very wealthy, and they have the same mindset. There's always something itchy. And so if that's you, if you're watching this, like whatever is like you're afraid to do, whether it's, investing in yourself, investing in your health, like moving to another city, moving like places, like connecting with some people that that you need to connect to grow personally or business wise, you just have to do it. Like there's no other way, or otherwise you'll be like 5 years from now, you're just like, fuck, I should have done it like 5 years ago. It'd be so much ahead.
It's like if you think about crypto, you think about Bitcoin back in 2012.
Oh.
You're like, fuck. I should have. What was I thinking? I was 12 years old. I wasn't buying Bitcoin. I don't know what I was thinking. I really should have. I really should have been doing my research. The same concept of FOMO and like fear of missing out is the same emotion that's triggered if you don't take the action that you need to take today. Whether it's like buying crypto or like starting that business, the emotion is the same. And you can have what happened with Bitcoin, and like 12 years later, like shit, I should have invested in that. You don't want to go 12 years in the future and look back at your present self and be like, fuck, I should have started that business. Now I can't. Now I got kids. Now I got a family. Now I got too many responsibilities. I don't have any time. That's the worst possible thing you could realize at that time. The FOMO is real.
So how do you beat that? Because I mean, at the end of the day, this is like procrastination, and people kind of, I'll do it, and and kind of like they're delaying it, they're procrastinating. So how do you beat procrastination? You probably have some ways, right? Somehow you manage to go to the gym every day, right? So how do you?
There's procrastination on getting started. That is where the highest amount of friction is. Like taking the first step is always the hardest, because then you just have to worry about like not falling over. So for me, saying like I have to beat procrastination with going to the gym, it's very different. I've gone to the gym probably thousands of times at this point. So it's not even a difficult thing for me to do. It's like a physical urge now. Like I'll feel uncomfortable if I don't go. I'll have probably a really shitty day if I don't go. So it's a little bit different, but I'll give you a little hack to beat procrastination if you just have something that you need to do, you haven't done it. The reason that you feel like you want to procrastinate something is because you're too in your head.
You overthinking?
You're overthinking and you're making this thing that you have to do way bigger than it actually is. And I have a pretty simple 2-step process that I follow anytime that I'm personally procrastinating is if you recognize that you're stuck in your head, the number one thing you can do is get out of your head and get into your body. So for me, that means going to the gym and having the most grueling, crazy, high-intensity training session I can think of. Like all the thoughts that are in my head, I just want them to be quiet so that I can get out of my head and just feel my body moving. So it could be exercising, could be meditation, could be prayer, whatever that is for you, get out of your mind and get into your body. And then the next step is, like I said, a lot of times this thing that you have to do, it's so much smaller than you really think. And so you just have to chunk down this seemingly massive thing into very small action steps and then just take one. Don't worry about taking any others, just take one. So if you want to start a business, the first thing that you could do is like, oh, I have to build a website, I have to get customers, I have to run ads, I have to figure out how to, file for an LLC. You can just chunk that down, find the first thing that you have to do. You can't build a business without customers. Okay, how do I get a customer? Be like, okay, well, I can run ads or do stuff organically. Okay, how do I run ads? Like, all right, I can do like Facebook, TikTok, Google, Pinterest. All right, I'm gonna do Facebook. And then what happens is you end up completing the most difficult step possible just because you're able to chunk it down. And so the 2 steps, again, number 1, get out of your head and in your body. After you finish that, get clarity and chunk down this massive thing into really, really reasonable steps and take one step.
And then you get confidence, right? Like once you took the first step, oh, that wasn't that difficult, right? Oh, now like you have more confidence. Now you're more aligned with the identity that you're the person that actually does what they say they'll do. And now you have more conviction to follow the next step and the next step and the next step.
Exactly.
Wow, this is so good. Mark, thank you so much. It's been tremendous conversation. Super blessed to have you as a partner and learning every day something from you. I still haven't convinced myself to go to the gym like 7 days a week like you do, but I'm on this journey and thank you so much. How do people connect with you?
You can follow me on Instagram. We'll flash them up on the screen here. Instagram, Twitter, and a YouTube channel as well. You can send me a message on any of those. I'm relatively active, unless I'm at the gym. No, yeah, just anywhere there. And thank you, man, for having me. This was awesome.
Thank you, Mark.